Hello guys, this is Mike from ICODROPS. We also have Alec here, and today we have a great opportunity to speak to Phil Zamani from Aergo. Hello Phil, could you please first introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your personal background, how did you get in blockchain sphere, and how did you begin this project?
Hi, nice to meet you by the way. Thanks for having me. So my name is Phil. So I've been involved with Aergo for around 9 months. My background, I've spent 30 years in software, in IT, exclusively working on open source technologies. So products like Linux, Red Hat, products like Spring Source for coding or GNU, GCC, and as of late, Hadoop for big data, and technologies like OpenStack. So for the last 30 years, I've helped companies use open source technologies to build businesses. So mainly focus on enterprise clients, banks, pharmaceutical, manufacturing companies. And in the last 20 years, there's been an acceleration of using open source technologies, especially in what we call cloud computing. So I've done that for around 30 years, and I've found a fantastic team in Aergo, so I joined the team very recently.
Thank you, Phil. And we have some questions from our community and also some questions from our tech team. And I think one of the most regular questions from the community is about your roadmap. I think it's really quick for such a difficult project because we do see a lot of other ones with 1-2 year roadmap, the testnet in 3 years, and so on. What do you think about your date? Because I think that you will have the mainnet in Q1 of 2019. And testnet at the end of this year?
Very good question. So in fact, our roadmap has 2 parallel tracks. One is the protocol, which is the blockchain, the public blockchain, but we're also developing a new architecture around that for cloud. So maybe I should explain that. So really Aergo is more than just a protocol. It is a public chain, but we're adding around this a whole community of software development tools for application development, the staging, the development like GitHub, the provisioning, the virtual machines, the scale out. So the chain is nearly all ready. We have a lot of technology, primarily because our partner is based here in Korea. It's Blocko. This technology has been developed for 4 years and in fact used by 25 million users. But we're adding some extra features to the core chain. Like very soon we will launch a SQL capability in the chain. So forget about testnets and mainnets. We are shipping in 2 weeks the first code base, and this is production ready, but it's not the whole thing. But the main platform will come out towards the end of this year as a testnet, but you'll see some exciting things happen in the next few months in parallel with testnet. I won't say too much, just watch this space. The mainnet will be launched early next year in Q1, but in the background we're developing some completely new technology for cloud computing, for serverless computing. So we're bringing in the chain this year, and as we develop the technology around software development and serverless computing, we'll introduce that next year. So quite a lot of IT related technology for next year, but this year it's about the public chain.
I think that on your website there is a lot of information about your project and a lot of answers on typical questions, but I should ask it anyway. There are so many upcoming projects with the I don't think identical, but maybe a familiar architecture and something like that. Like there is project like Warchain, Multivac, Oregon Network, and so on. And I think there is some, triangle in crypto, like you can't achieve both of the 3 parts, like decentralization, scalability, and security. And some of the projects are aiming to reach real greater security, maybe for the smart contract. Some of the projects are aim to reach great scalability. What is your aim, and where do you think that the Aergo will be a little bit lower than other ones?
So I can't comment too much about the other project because they know their project, but what I will say is that in technology, they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Things happen for the same reason. So 10 years ago, when cloud computing came out, many people said cloud cannot be used securely. It's cheap, but it's not secure. Therefore, you need a private cloud, but it's expensive and it's not shared. If you look today, it's hybrid. You have public cloud, private clouds, and a hybrid infrastructure. People have understood how to do this. So we believe the same thing will happen with blockchain and distributed systems. It's not about a public chain or a private chain or a side chain. It's about solving a problem. Do you need performance, trust, scalability, and how do you deploy that? So what's different about Aergo, we're combining all 3 techniques, public chains, side chains, and private chains in one environment, but we're putting a whole cloud infrastructure around that. Nobody's done that before. People talk about interchain speed or performance or trust, but not all things together. So we're trying to actually go for everything. But the trick is not to develop everything from the beginning. So we're using old techniques in the future. People have forgotten SQL. There are 8 million SQL developers around the world, not 8 million Solidity developers. So we're bringing SQL into blockchain to actually give a pragmatic approach. So you could never develop a project like this by new technology. You need to combine both. So ours is a very broad platform for general purpose computing.
Great. So you're moving forward really fast, and you have big plans. Could you please tell about the people who are standing behind the project? How are these people moving the project?
Very good. So the technology behind Aergo was orchestrated and built here in Korea through our strategic partner. Our strategic partner is a company called Blocko. Blocko has done this for 4 years, originally for proof of concepts, but last 2 years, production systems. So we have 25 clients here in Korea with over 25 million users on our blockchains. Most of them are permission chains. The team behind that is in Korea. We're building a second team, a global team, mainly based in Europe, with enterprise architects who have developed Linux, open source, OpenStack at scale for very large companies, and they're building the wrapping technology around this. So we actually have 2 teams. The Korean team is growing. We're also building a new team in Europe, and most of those people have worked with me before, and people in the team in companies like Red Hat, in VMware, and lately the team also developed one of the biggest cloud infrastructures in the world in Deutsche Telekom, Germany. So people who develop the technology there, who worked with me before, will be joining us here because they like the project.
Thank you. I know there is a feature, not a feature maybe, but the ability of Aergo project that you can like integrate some modifications into your blockchains without any hard forks, and this is what distinguishes you from other maybe projects. How can you describe it? How you can do that, and what is the purpose of this maybe feature? I can tell.
I'm probably not the best guy to answer that question technically here. We have recently published a new white paper or 2 which goes into more detail around this, but the general principle is when you, first of all, Aergo will be developed as an open source platform, not just a project. A platform means we open source the code and provide all the technology that developers need to develop applications and extend this. But in open source it's very important not to fork. Whenever you fork, a fork means you build a side system, and it's very difficult to maintain that, and then over time it becomes useless. The trick is to allow you to change your architecture but bring it all together. So we're very careful about building an architecture that can be developed in a public and a private environment with the same code base without forking. Very difficult to do. That's why we're using technology like GitHub and others to allow code development. So we haven't talked too much about that because we're still developing this code. You'll see this early next year, but we will actually explain with a methodology how developers can use this. It's very similar to Linux or Hadoop or OpenStack. The methodology is well understood how open source developers use technology without forking. That's not very well understood in the blockchain arena. We are going to bring that into blockchain.
In the blockchain sphere, there are some concerns that if you can't fork, maybe it isn't very decentralized because of the, some nodes are choosing what is the blockchain and what we should believe in this sphere. Yes, I think it would be interesting for us to review because we're not very familiar with the real world experience.
So one thing I may ask, which might help, we use the word serverless computing. So the simple way to look at this is to deploy your architecture away from a central system. So it's a decentralized cloud. So our view is some projects will need the public chain for trust, but they may need a side chain or a private chain for performance or for control. The trick is how you combine the two. So we will develop the methodology to allow you to do both, so you have the best of both worlds. We think it's not about a private chain or a public chain, it's about doing the right thing for the project, but you need to describe this, and this has not been well understood yet in blockchain, and some of the technology is still to be developed. That's what we want to do, but serverless computing allows you to deploy different parts of your architecture. For example, if you're a business and you want to have the most secure and stable architecture, you may host this on your local telco's infrastructure, a telecommunication provider that is local, has the performance and has a scale. But if you want maximum trust, you'll anchor it to a public chain. So the key thing is how you connect the three together. And we will explain that in our white paper and also with our technology as it ships.
When do you think you will publish this white paper for the community? What are there any some dates of this?
Two of the white papers came out very recently here, so if you haven't seen them on the website, as of today, 20th of July, some new white papers on the website which go into some more detail. We will ship more later in the year. We also plan not only to release code, is release example protocols and test cases. So the benefit of having Blocko as a partner, they have many use cases for supply chain management, for timestamping, signatures, biometrics, even voting. We built those with customers here. The code we develop, the smart contracts, we will share as templates to accelerate the adoption, because developers want not only good tech, they want a platform, and a platform means blueprints. So those blueprints you will start seeing as we develop the technology.
As we are still in the early days of decentralized technologies, what do you mind a mature blockchain ecosystem might look like in a few years? And what place are you aiming to take in this ecosystem?
Very good question, but you're asking about the future. We don't really know. We have a view, a hypothesis, that things will be similar to the past. So for the next 5 or 6 years, we think there will be a combination of public chains, some private chains connected together in one ecosystem. I believe, and the team really believes, in the future we will probably find no more than 10 platforms as the main platforms for distributed, decentralized systems here. Ethereum is very well accepted right now. Ethereum will probably be around for many years, but there'll be other architectures. It's very similar to what happened with cloud computing and Linux in the first few years. Many variations, but the market always congregates on a number of platforms. We think our platform will be a very easy to use, comprehensive platform for most businesses. We don't expect you have to be an expert in technology or in cloud or blockchain to use blockchain. If you think of the banks are building their own blockchains right now. We don't think that model is sustainable longer term. We believe it needs to be generic. So we're aiming for the generic, broad market. So if you want to use an analogy with cars, we want to be the Ford or the General Motors of distributed systems. If you want a Ferrari, then you have to pay, go somewhere else. But if you want a system that works for most companies, we hope to be the most comprehensive but easy to use. So making something difficult easy is very hard. That's why we will take time. Our roadmap is quite long. We have a lot of technology. We will only ship when we're sure it's stable. So we believe we have the technical team that can develop this, but we also need customers to help us. So part of our roadmap is not just to develop the tech, it's to work with lead customers to test the technology out, to really prove this before we do this en masse. So you'll find soon, you'll hear more about projects using our technology, and we'll be using reference cases to prove to the market this is stable and can scale.
And as soon as you've mentioned interaction with real life business and real customers, what's your business strategy?
Well, so Aergo is a platform, first of all. So we are an enabler. So we enable businesses to take advantage of decentralized, in effect, serverless computing and decentralized systems like blockchain. So our model is to provide this to anybody who can use this. So if you think the stakeholders or the users of Aergo will be DApp developers, so people who want to develop DApps for businesses, a DApp that can run on 1 million mobile phones or 100 million phones or 1 billion IoT devices. That's a new class of DApps that don't yet exist. On the other hand, we also recognize in enterprises, they want to develop new apps themselves. So we will also cater for enterprise developers in large companies. We also want to bring in partners. So our system needs to be very stable. So the block producers, we want to be very high quality, and we want them to be there in 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. So we want new companies, but also established companies. We believe telcos, telecommunications providers that have hosting skills will be great partners. They missed out on cloud computing because cloud is dominated by Google, Amazon, Azure from Microsoft, Bluemix from IBM, and Alibaba. But many cloud providers are telcos, but they're regional. So we will also focus on telcos. So a combination of node providers, telcos, and other partners. So it's really a wide platform. We also want to make sure system integrators can come in and use the platform to help customers build systems, because many customers may not be able to do it themselves or may not want to, and they may want to outsource. to a partner. So we have to make sure the blueprints are there for system integrators to take the platform and do the project. So it's quite a wide community.
You mentioned so many types of companies that could be built on your platform. If we speak about these companies, how do you want to attract them on your platform? Because this is something new for them. Are there any incentives to attract these companies? Because I think even if your platform is really unique and well designed, a lot of great technology features, there will be some competitors who will do something close to these ideas. So how do you want to track them, and are there any advantages that you have in the maybe in the real world, maybe some connections with the real companies and to use the platform?
Again, it's a very good question, and another way people ask this question is, which sectors will you focus on? Is it automotive or banking? And the answer is none of them. We will work with customers who want to test their technology. So again, I said before that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Whenever you have a disruptive technology like TCP/IP or Linux or Hadoop or things like OpenStack, you're competing against history. Companies like IBM, Oracle, EMC, Microsoft. So the way to win customers is to deliver really good technology. You deliver good technology with good support. So we will put people onto projects. We will give great technology and support customers. So rather than chasing 100 customers, we'll chase 5, for example, in one country until we get it right. And what happens in these projects, if you do well, your technology is good, you have a good infrastructure and good people, customers start believing reference projects. You always need lighthouse customers. Red Hat did this. I did this in Red Hat 20 years ago. We did this in SpringSource. We did this in VMware. It's really leading by example. That's our approach. That may take longer and may not look very exciting, but over time, it's the way to get customers to look at your platform.
If you return to some not technical, but the questions about your platform itself, I like the idea of Aergo Hub, because this describes how I am as a user can really use your platform in the near future, and this is like something well ready for me, because a lot of projects doesn't describe anything. Like we have some technology and we don't know how you will use it. I like this idea. Could you tell us please a little bit more about this hub? Will it be also decentralized for the community, or how will it look like? Because this is something new that you gonna show us from the scratch start.
Again, I'll try to explain with an example. Imagine you're a DApp developer and you want to develop an application for, let's say, managing devices, let's say signatures or authentication. When you develop the app, the first thing you've got to make sure it works functionally. Does it work? Can I connect? Can it do the performance? And you test this, you debug this. You would do that in a public chain, on a general purpose chain, which is cheap, free, stable, secure. But then if you want your customer to use this on 1 million devices or 10 million devices, you better test this at scale. So that might mean you need a faster network. So Hub will allow you to, with switches, to switch from a public chain to a side chain with dedicated computers just for your DApp for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, just like you would do on Amazon. You pay per use. You could then test the application on 100,000 or 1 million nodes for 1 hour. Then you shut it down and put it back on the public chain. Then you can market your app. This scales to 100 million users. And when a customer buys this and they try it, it's been tested. So Hub is like a switch. So it's very similar to what is used on Amazon or other clouds. It gives you the ability to pay to play, to scale quickly. And that's very important. And it's also important for large customers. They may want to develop everything on a public chain, but then split this in a public and a private chain without changing the code. Hub will allow you to do that.
This is the feature that enables me to work with my product in a user-friendly atmosphere, like I'll do it on some current web applications. Yes, I see. In the United States there are a lot of great teams and great projects, but because of the legal part of the allocation, like in the United States and Europe, it's really hard for them to establish their products and start to show the community the real applications, because there are a lot of problems with the ICO. There are a lot of problems with going in the legal zone. Where does your project establish? like where is your legal entity, and how quickly you will think you will be able to cope with all of the legal parts in different countries, because there are a lot of companies who will use your product from different countries, and for crypto now there is no common legislation in this sphere.
That's a difficult question because you're dealing with both commercial, legal, and then usage. So let me try and comment about the two. On the crypto side, yes, different countries have different regulations. So Aergo as a project is an international project. We're based in the project not very far from Korea in Hong Kong. The project is an open source foundation, so it's built as a non-profit organization. And this is very good for open source. We will also use open source licensing, so the technology that we develop and we ship as open source will be a combination of GPL or Apache licensing or BSD or whatever's right for developers. We let the developers advise us what's the right approach. So legally, we're set up as a company, as a foundation in Hong Kong. The technology is open source. Most open source projects is irrelevant whether it's based in the Ukraine, Belarus, London, or Hong Kong. Developers just want good technology. So the platform is open. The project is based in Hong Kong. What will happen in the future, because people don't talk about this, if you think of businesses using distributed systems like blockchain or serverless computing, most companies, when they deploy a business application, they need support. They need a company, one throat to choke, 24/7. Blocko will be an example company that will offer enterprise support. It will offer the enterprise support whichever country the customer's in. Today, it will be in Korea. We've just opened up an office in Hong Kong, another one in London, soon in different cities. So as the market grows, we will have teams in each country offering support services locally here. So customers want to know that the technology works, the technology is licensed the right way, and they have local support people. The legal aspects are for others to really comment on, things like ICOs. It's not really the same thing. ICOs is how projects are funded, but what businesses want to know is, does the technology work? Is it safe to use? And can I be supported? And that's how we approach the market.
Even the very good technology needs to be promoted, needs to be explained to people. You need to do something to attract people and to intensify the usage of the technology. So are you planning some community building activities, and are you planning to have some incentives for developers to use your technology? Because of the network effect and because of its really competitive sphere, and the competitors entered the market early, you need to move much more fast than your competitors to even keep with them.
Yeah, another very good question. So moving faster than the competitors is easy to say, but not easy to do, especially if they have 2 years head advantage.
That's what I mean, yeah.
However, the competition is different. We are coming from a base of working with customers. We have 25 million users using the tech today with great reference customers. So the technology has been used by Samsung, by Hyundai, by Kia Motors, Shinhan Bank, the second largest bank in Korea. The government in Korea is using our technology for an OTC platform, a regulated OTC platform. They're also using it for voting. These are real production systems. So what we have to do is do what we do well, keep talking about our customers and our technology. So in terms of business development, there are actually 3 communities we want to target. Number 1, DApp developers. So for those, we will build incubation funds and projects around the world. So wherever we find the right interest to incubate projects for DApps, we'll support them and invest in those teams. Second is the open source community here. The open source community does not need funding. What they want is projects. They want good technology here. So we will try our best to promote an open source mantra, an open source methodology to get open source developers to use the technology here. And the third business development activity is with customers. We want to find clients who want to try out this new technology here, and we'll invest in them and their developers. So we are looking really all around the world for developers and advocates, not only to use the technology, but also to explain and communicate this. So, projects like yours are great because you generally do really good quality content. So the market needs education. So we will do a lot of those. So if we have developers or any community out there that can add value, they should talk to us, talk to our marketing team. We will try our best to work with the ones we believe are generally trying to help the customers.
There are 2 types of projects. The first type is really hype project, with a nice marketing. They are doing some concrete and specific dates, like we will do the crowd sale this date, maybe some exchanges, even some rumors about exchanges this day, maybe these exchanges. And they have this concrete specific roadmap, not about the project and development, but about how do they going to do the crowd sale. And this is not very great situation, because these projects are usually gain a lot of hype, and it isn't about development, and it isn't about real use cases. In your project, I think the tech part and the project part is really on the first step, but the community misses some information about maybe your dates, your marketing plans, and how do you want to support the investors.
I can't give too much information now because we haven't announced this yet, but what I can say is it's the 20th of July. We have just closed our private round, so we've managed to achieve our objectives, not only financial investments, but we've attracted a combination of great funds who understand the whole blockchain market, great advocates and influencers, and people in certain geographies that can help us promote this. So we'll press release this, so if it's not out by the time the video is broadcast, you should look at Aergo.io to see what's been announced. Very soon we'll announce a full roadmap of what we're doing. And everything you said, we have exciting plans. We have a great Telegram community of advocates who are very eager to find out more. We hear, the two words we hear the most is when whitelist, when whitelist. The correct term is when is the whitelist, but that will be answered soon. But we will have, and what we're trying to do is the right thing for people who support the project, but we want actually people who add value. So if you want to have a chance to participate in whatever program we have, read the white paper, go to the website, blog about the project. If you believe in the project, tell the truth, look at the tech, and talk about this. And then those who do will be rewarded. And there's quite a lot of exciting plans in the next few weeks.
Thanks a lot, Phil. And in the end, would you like to say something or to reach something to ICODROPS community?
I've seen quite a few communities in the last 6 or 9 months, and it's been interesting for me. I'm not very long in the whole blockchain market, but it's really good to see great writers, great communities here. So I love working with teams who are honest and have great data. So I think the people who are looking at this channel, you've picked the right channel. Hopefully we'll deliver what we promise. But I thank you for the opportunity here to meet you both here, and may we all prosper.